Okay, so today we're doing a new test video that's not working so far. It's not working out, but look how big they've gotten. Oh my god, well this is just one, obviously. But look how big he is. Look how big this boy is. And you see Rumble in the background, and then Zed's coming in right now. Okay, yeah, this was a terrible idea. Okay, I fixed the camera angle, and they've calmed down a little bit, but they're probably going to be by my side this entire video. But I wanted to try filming while I was out here with them, and you know, they were tired like 2 seconds ago. So this is not gonna work. It's probably not gonna work, but I already got ready and I can't leave them now because they're hyper. So I just want to film this video, and Nar is underneath the tripod, which means the tripod's going to move because now Zed is messing with Nar underneath the tripod, and we got Fizz in the, this is gonna be a train wreck. But hey y'all, I am back, and today I have more police ghost stories that I'm really excited to read. The last one I did was like an actual paranormal 911 phone call, and I'm hoping we can find more like that in this book. I don't think this one will be, but I'm hoping we can find more like that because I love those, they're so cool. But I'm going to attempt to read you a story while I am out here with my dogs and all of my cats. My farm, if you will. And so I think I'm just gonna like sit here for a little bit until they go lay down. Stop digging the tripod, you weirdo. I think I'm just gonna sit here until they're like, this isn't weird, and they go lay down, which it looks like they're, no, doesn't look like they're going to do that. So I'm gonna stop the video. I'm gonna sit right here in this spot, and I'm gonna wait. They've calmed down a lot. I also forgot I have a stream on in the background. What is this video? I also don't know how many stories I'm gonna get through because I have to make this a little bit of a shorter video because I don't have much time to edit it before Sunday. I didn't want to start filming videos until I could film in my house again because I was so sick of filming in my car. And so my video from Friday I filmed on Wednesday, and then I had to edit it today on Thursday, and so today is Thursday. So normally when they would be sleeping for like a long time, like in the morning, I couldn't film, I had to edit, and so I'm trying to film this like later in the afternoon, and usually they take another nap, but it doesn't look like that's happening. So that's why I'm filming this so randomly, and it can't be like super long. So we'll get through this story, we'll see how long this story takes us, and then I'll decide if I'm gonna read another one. If this one's not super long, I'll probably read two. But this story says Haunted Halls. And this is going to be a distracting video. Oh, it's going to be so distracting. So just pay attention to the background while you listen to the sound of my voice. Being a serving police officer, I'm usually quite skeptical when it comes to far-fetched stories. After a while on the job, it begins to feel like you've seen it all, and there's always an evidence-based explanation. No matter how crazy the scene or story is, there's always a logical course of events. I am of a mind to question everything and keep digging until the answers come to light. To follow the evidence and use doubt to drive my digging. But as this particular experience has happened to me personally twice, I can't discount it as my imagination or being overtired. I can't shield my doubt behind my skepticism, because there is no doubt, and the experience, the evidence, it all comes back to me. I work at a heritage site. It is one of the oldest functional buildings still in use today. History has been made in its place. Several individuals have worked in these halls. Many people have been condemned and even died within these walls. Some believe the ghosts of the past still haunt the building. I'll admit, I doubt this. Or rather, I did doubt this even though there was always a part of me that felt I should believe it. While the original part of the building was built a long time ago, certain parts have been added to the structure over the years. One such addition is a front corridor. Still, while it is new, comparatively speaking, it was built in 1840, only about 10 meters away from the oldest part of the building, the hall. Anytime I can on duty, I actively try to avoid the corridor as best as I can. Walking down the heavily wood-paneled corridor, the walls seem to fall in around you, getting closer and tighter the further you go down. To me, it always feels as though someone is watching and waiting for just the right moment to jump out and get me. Saying that out loud makes me feel foolish, given the pride I have in my uncertainty. But it is what it is, and it is the first area of the whole building I felt a heavy presence. The hall, being the oldest of the building, has seen the likes of Charles I and William Wallace, Braveheart, stand trial before execution, along with many others. The history of violence within its walls can be felt, especially when open to the possibility there could linger the ghosts of the past. But I can no longer attempt to discredit myself or the stories of others. An overactive imagination, lack of sleep, paranoia, or whatever other reason could be given, I was the one with it. But then it happened. A moment that changed my mind, proved that history could survive and erase my doubt and cynical beliefs, at least when it came to this building. It happened after another long shift, with another one being in only 7 hours. If I had taken the time to get home, cleaned up, in bed, and back up to work for the next shift, I would only have gotten about 4 hours of sleep at best. Why do you have to fight on top of me? Like, just wondering. I'm genuinely curious. It had been a long week, and that was not just going to cut it. The structure has a basement room with folding beds for service officers on occasions like this. It is certainly nothing fancy, but it satisfies the purpose it's designed to fulfill. A place for overtired officers to catch a few extra hours of sleep before another grueling shift. I had not utilized this area before this night. Of course, I had heard stories. The other officers who had used the room would tell me stories on what I assumed to be tall tales. Guys, please! Most of the time, it would be officers who had been on the job for years, telling the rookies to be careful down there, sleep with the door open, and all that nonsense. I'd been given all the same warnings. Veteran officers had told me their stories, and I had listened with a skeptic's ear. I was not going to be scared of the monster under the bed. I grabbed the overnight bag I kept in my personal car in case this ever happened and headed back into the building. I was exhausted and ready to crash. I made my way down to the basement level, followed the minimal signage directing me to the makeshift sleeping quarters, and found an empty bed. The rooms are cool, as I'd expected since they would be in a basement. The bed was narrow, a single pillow lay at the head, an extra fleece blanket lay folded at the foot. It was evident the term folding bed was just a polite way of saying large cot, but still, it would do the job. I set my bag on the bed and opened it to pull out the hygiene bag with my spare toothbrush, toothpaste, and razor. Quick trip to the bathroom, and I was back in the room stripping down and changing into the flannel pants and white t-shirt I had in the bag. After settling down for the night, I shut the door and turned off the lights. I expected the bed to feel flimsy and to squeak under the weight of my body, but I was worried for nothing. For being little more than a cot, the bed was surprisingly comfortable and quiet. It did not take long for my exhausted body to drift off to sleep. I recall waking up some time later and feeling a presence in the room with me. At first, I thought nothing of it. I'd been dead asleep and tried to explain the feeling as just being unnerved by not being home. A couple of others had tried to spook me earlier in the day, and I figured I may have dreamed of something that spooked me awake. And then suddenly, in the midst of my rational thinking, I felt this heavy, oppressive presence pressing down on my chest, forcing me into the mattress. It was like nothing I felt before. I'd fallen and had the wind knocked out of me. I've been on the bottom of the dog pile. I've been tackled to the ground by someone twice my size. None of that compared to the pressure I felt forcing me into the mattress. It felt as though I was paralyzed. The force of the presence seemed to permeate into my every fiber, filling me with the weight of its oppression. Fear had seeped into my mind, and I fought to not panic. I just needed to walk up and walk around, to leave the room, get some water, but I couldn't. My arms, my legs, every part of my body was out of control. Terror ripped through me as I realized I had no physical control over my own body. I was being pushed deeper into the thin mattress. The springs began to creak as they were pressed further into themselves. I felt as though the flimsy bed would soon collapse. It felt like minutes would turn into hours as I lay there in a panic, unable to move, barely able to breathe. In reality, I believe this went on for about 30 seconds before I regained the ability to control my body again. I had never stopped trying to fight against the presence. When it finally lifted, my arms and legs jerked up from the confines of the mattress. I sucked in a gulp of air and shot out of the bed. I immediately put on the lights and opened the door. I went out to wash my face in the bathroom. I tried my best to chalk it up to a nightmare. I went back to my bed, leaving the lights on and the door open, and spent the rest of the night drifting in and out of sleep. When my alarm went off, the whole night seemed surreal. I couldn't, and I wouldn't believe this had happened. I told myself it was just my overactive imagination and the power of suggestion, nothing more. I got ready for my shift and went on about my job. Over the next few days, I mentioned my night in the basement to a few colleagues at work who had also used the same room. That room was creepy. I kept the door open all night. One guy said to a few of us as we stood in line grabbing food to go, "Did you feel," I can't believe I'm even asking this, "did you feel a presence down there?" I asked him when no one gave him a hard time for the fear he admitted to having in the room. Yes, it was the weirdest feeling, like I was being watched, and like I was not wanted there. He visibly shook off the memory. Was that all? Just the feeling? I wanted to know if anyone else had the same experience I did, with physical contact, not just a feeling. Just the feeling. It really creeped me out. Another guy spoke up after the officer answered me. I got the feeling. It was intense. The moment I walked into the room, it felt oppressive. I hate staying down there. I only stay if the lights are on and the door is wide open. My air conditioning just turned on, so I'm gonna have to pause. He shook his head and ran his hand down his face. He was not proud of this. He was a big man, towering over most of us and built like a gladiator. To be scared of ghosts or a presence seemed childish and immature. But he was not alone, and no one was laughing. An uncomfortable silence filled the space between us. Finally, one of the most veteran of us said he heard why or who the presence could be. They say one of the contractors who work on the building hung himself in one of the basement rooms. They didn't find his body until 3 days after he had died. He shrugged his shoulders, grabbed his food, and left. The rest of us continued to compare experiences. I eventually told them what had happened to me. I was unnerved at the fact that they believed me. The influence of the presence had obviously affected each and every one of the police officers I served with in this unit. I'll let you all know what I find out, I assured each of them when I said I was curious if the old veteran officer was right about the hanging. Further research was wanted by all. Unfortunately, I've been unable to confirm if this was the same room the hanging happened. As far as the hanging, the whole building, the grounds, all of it is married to a history of violence. Who can really say for sure if it was the contractor who hung himself or some other poor lost soul who suffered inside the near ancient walls? A few weeks later, I had a reason to sleep over once again. Another long week full of long shifts and one more to go with a short window for sleep in between. I was more reluctant to stay this time, but I did not let fear conquer me or my better senses. I was prepared for the worst, but hoped nothing would happen. However, when the presence came upon me again, pressing me into the bed once more, I reacted much differently. I was able to maintain a sense of calm and composure. Despite being pressed into the mattress, I managed to say, "I know you're here. I do not want to harm you. I just want to rest before work." Slowly, the presence began to lift off of me, freeing my limbs and releasing me of its oppressive weight. Since the second night, when I spoke directly to the presence, I haven't been bothered. I'm still wary when I sleep there, but I've started sleeping with the lights off. Still leave the door open though. That was hectic, and I'm so sorry. I promise I will never film a video like this ever again, but I am gonna read one more story because the next one is pretty short. So this one says, speeding. I used to do highway patrol as part of my duties for the sheriff's department. Most of the time, it was sitting around for hours waiting for something to happen. In my early years, I would work the graveyard shift. One night, a little after midnight, someone sped past me going over 85. I turned my lights on and pulled him over. He pulled over to the side pretty easily. He even did this thing where he turned on his interior light and put his hands on the wheel. With the advent of the internet, okay, squeaky toy, squeaky toy. Okay, he looks so cute with his squeaky toy. I'm just gonna let him have it. I'm gonna try to read in between the squeaks. With the advent of the internet, more people are doing this. Most law enforcement love seeing people do this because it shows clearly where their hands are. I assumed he was just trying to be a goody two-shoes so he could get out of the speeding ticket. I typed the license plate into my MDC. That's the computer we use in our patrol cars. Fairly standard information came up for the license plate. I was confident this would be a routine speeding ticket. I'd already decided that as long as they didn't throw a tantrum, I'd mark the ticket as only going 75. It would cut the fine in half. I got out of the car, put a hand on my flashlight and a hand on my gun, like I always do. My focus was locked on the car, a little four-door, early 2000s car. I remember how plain and smooth the car looked. The car door closed. It made my skin tighten. It wasn't the car I pulled over. I could clearly see everything going on with that car. I expected another car had pulled up behind me. There wasn't. Wanna go outside? Okay, the dogs are outside, so we won't have many disruptions. I can probably get through this before they want to come back in. By the way, don't ever pull up behind a police car. It would have terrified me and made me feel surrounded. One of my biggest fears about pulling someone over is that someone else would pull up behind me and catch me by surprise. But what actually happened was weirder. The noise came from my passenger side door. It was dark, so I didn't really get a good look at them, but there was a woman in my passenger seat. I took a glance at the car I pulled over. The guy hadn't moved, so I walked back to my car. The woman was wearing a highway patrol uniform. I didn't call for backup. Why would I? It was a simple speeding ticket. She didn't look like anyone I work with either. "Hello?" I called out. She moved a little in the shadows, but didn't respond back. My window was open. I liked the fresh air, so I leaned down. It was like I was pulling over my own car. "What are you doing in my vehicle?" I asked. "He's got a gun with him," she spoke. "What? Who?" I asked. "He's got a gun with him," she said again, "on the seat next to him." I opened the door, expecting the light to turn on, and I'd get a good look at the woman, but when it came on, she was gone. She vanished into thin air. Nothing will make you feel safe after seeing someone disappear like that. Doesn't matter how much training you have or how fast you can pull a sidearm out of its holster. I was really spooked, but I still had to do my job. I could still see the man's hands nicely perched on his steering wheel. "Sir, I'm going to need your license and registration," I spoke. Standard stuff. The best way to keep a situation calm is to look calm and act calm. He reached over into his glove compartment and grabbed his paperwork. On the seat next to him was a hoodie, and peeking out from under the hoodie was the butt of a gun, just like the woman had said. When he saw my lights, he probably grabbed the hoodie to hide the gun. He was still calm. I wanted to get him away from the weapon. "Sir, we've had a lot of trouble with drunk drivers this time at night. I'm going to have you get out of your car and touch your nose a couple of times for me." "I haven't been drinking," he said. "This will be quick," I said. He got out and I closed the car door for him. I was putting further separation between him and the gun. "Do you have a concealed carry license for the weapon in your car?" I asked. He responded with, "What weapon?" And that's actually the end of that story, which is surprising. I thought that would be, I thought we would have some sort of conclusion, but I guess not. That's creepy, and my camera's gonna stop recording. Very creepy, very spooky. I don't really understand I wish we had more to that story because, like, why is he lying about the weapon? Like, it's weird that it just stopped there. It's also weird that the ghost lady knew he had a gun in his car and she came to, like, warn him. Like, what the fuck? I don't know why. I just think these stories are really interesting because for me, I feel like a police officer would be like the last person I would expect to believe in the supernatural other than like a scientist. I just feel like it's a weird combination. It's like police and paranormal. Like, what is it? Where did it combine and how does it? No, it's weird. And so I find these stories very fascinating. But that is all I'm going to read for right now. Hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry this video was super chaotic and all my animals are running around everywhere. Like Rumble was just playing in the blinds, which so you probably heard it, and the dogs were barking and Nara was meowing. But I think I read through all of the like absurd noises. You can probably hear Nara meowing a lot at the beginning because the dogs like to mess with him and he just meows back at them. So you can probably hear Nara meowing, but I don't think you can hear the dogs bark at all. I think I read in between their barks. I hope. Fizz is staring at me through the window and it's kind of creepy, but I think it means he wants to come inside. So I'm gonna end the video here. But I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye! But I just want to show you the puppies one more time. They are 6 months old now, so they're pretty big. They're pretty big. Zed is still really small compared to Fizzy Wizzy. But like Fizz is pretty freaking big. I mean, he's still like small. I don't think they're gonna get much bigger than they are now. He's still like, you can't see him. I'm sitting on the floor and okay, he's standing on top of me. But you can see he's not like huge or anything like that, but he's much bigger than he was. And he's growing very fast. But I really don't think they'll get like much bigger than they are now. And Zed is a very picky eater, so he's growing slow because he doesn't like to eat his dog food. He doesn't like to eat his dog food. I'm gonna end the video. Stop biting me! Ah! I'm being attacked! I'm being attacked! Ah! Okay, sorry, that was really stupid. I'm gonna go. See ya.